the regular meeting of the Regional School District 13 Board of Education meeting for December 13th, 2023 to order. Would everyone please rise if you're able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Oh, moved by John. Do I have a second? Second by Jay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item is the election of officers. We will begin with the election of board chairman. I will now open the floor to nominations and remind that these nominations do not require a second.
I'd like to nominate Lindsay Dalheimer, the chair.
Okay, Lindsay Dahlheimer is nominated for the position of chair. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I will close nominations and call for a vote. All those in favor of Lindsay?
Aye. Sorry about that.
Okay. Any opposed? Are our people on Zoom? Did you guys say aye?
Hi, it's Maura.
Okay.
Amanda, I'll abstain.
Okay, so motion passes 8-0 with one abstention. Lindsay, congratulations. Happy to tell you the meeting is now yours.
Thank you, Doug. We'll move on to election of officer of secretary. And I would like to nominate Lucy Petrella for secretary.
I second that nomination.
I know. Any other nominations for secretary? Okay, I will close nominations for secretary. Call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Maura?
It's Maura, aye. Amanda, aye.
All right. Congratulations, Lucy. Very happy with you. Very excited. I'll move on to board treasurer. I would like to nominate Jason Stone again for treasurer. Do we have any other nominations for treasurer? Okay, I will close nominations for treasurer. Call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Maura Caramello. Amanda, aye.
All right, motion passes. Congratulations, Jason, again. Honor or curse, right? Presentations number 4. We will start with, I believe, Ms. Starkin is here with the 5th grade to do a presentation. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. I'm here along with Memorial School 5th graders, the selection of Memorial School 5th graders, and our instructional coach, Ms. Shauna Johnson, to talk to you and share a little bit about the program you've heard a lot about, which is our new literacy program. Excuse me. The new literacy program is the EL literacy program, as you may have remembered from previous meetings and lots of discussion. So I thought it would be really helpful if we were able to shine a little light into what that learning looks like at Memorial School. So without further ado, I turn it over to Fiona, Frank, Owen, and Kylie.
Hi, I'm Fiona. And I'm Fiona. We're the Fionas. Today, we and our other friends, Frank, Owen, and Kylie, We'll be talking to you about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All block, and for this portion of the meeting, Module 1, Esperanza Rising. Before we start, have you all read the book Esperanza Rising?
No.
Nope.
Anyways, let's start. In our book, we are reading a book where the main character, Esperanza, faces challenges and discrimination. For a long time, Esperanza has been at the rising action until very recently. We have been discovering the upcoming events have been relating to the climax, and we have very recently finished the book. One example of the rising action is when Esperanza has to move from her home in Mexico to the United States because of threats from her tío Luis, which means uncle. In the book, Esperanza is discriminated against because she is Mexican. For example, Esperanza gets paid less for her work. The Okies get better housing, warm water, and a whole pool. I can make an inference that or something I can predict is that Miguel stole my Esperanza's money to bring back Abuelita. Next, Kylie will discuss the Declaration of Human Rights. While we are reading the book, we make connections to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The UDHR is a list of rights that every human should have. An example from Esperanza Rising is when a character Miguel was demoted from working on engines to digging ditches. He was demoted because he is Mexican. The Okies took his job for half the price. Next, Owen and Frank will discuss all block. In the all block, we normally start by reading for 5 to 10 minutes, and it grows every day. By the end of the year, we will go up to 20 to 25 minutes of reading to build our stamina so we can read longer and not stop until time is up. When we are done reading our book, we have different task cards to do. And then we share with our peers, also share why we did it. We do many times so we can share with different peers. Sometimes we go in the back working on academic and domain-specific words with the teacher, working on to sort them and find the definition using a dictionary. What we do in our book is word study and vocabulary, reading fluently, reading and speaking fluently, grammar, usage, mechanics. We also do independent reading, writing practice, and additional work with complex texts. Thank you. So thank you so much to our courageous fifth graders. These fifth graders were selected because they were just very, very engaged and excited about the learning that they were doing within the first module and consistently wanted to share their learning with others. So we figured what better place than to come here with you this evening. So thank you for your time, and thank you so much to the fifth graders and the families and Ms. Johnson for helping support our EL share tonight.
Thank you guys all for coming, and we're so excited and proud of you for all that you've accomplished this year. And we know that it's a new program and it's something you guys haven't been used to, so we're really proud of you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. You don't have
Good choice. Leave the hat. Seems like a couple of drinks. They're very stuck. Yeah, good job.
See with the hat.
Yeah.
But I went out. Okay, we will move on to number 4 and presentations 4B, recognition of the bench warmers. We thought we'd have to put this off for a little bit because when talking about dedication to our district, some of the bench warmers were at and supporting one of our coaches tonight in need. So I think I'm really glad you guys were able to make it. When we talk about the core ethical values of the district, this year, each of the schools in RSD13 has made a significant effort to implement in different ways a reboot of the core ethical values. Some through rules, connecting with students and recognizing them for their achievements around these core ethical values, staff incorporating a rotation into lesson plans, and general improvement and visibility of these values within the district. Tonight, the bench warmers would like to recognize and honor the bench warmers for consistently and thoughtfully applying the core ethical values of RSD13 and supporting the athletic programs of our district for over 50 years. In specific categories, core ethical values of respect. With over 50 members of the bench warmers, they have a consistent presence of members at all district sporting and athletic events, often listening to coaches and the community about possible needs of the district. Fielding requests from coaches and the district on possible projects and in the area of responsibility, consistently encouraging and reinforcing the need for student athletes to be community builders, volunteering their time, awarding scholarships to student athletes who strive to reach high academic achievement in the category of honesty, forming a new project committee that evaluates and makes decisions on projects brought forth to the bench warmers for approval to ensure discussion among members, kindness, providing a structure that fosters a positive climate within the organization and the community for parents, student athletes, and community members to feel welcome. Courage. Developing and presenting a very successful advertising fundraising program to the district that brought in over $25,000 alone last year. This effort has fostered local businesses to continue to be an active part in supporting the district, including most recently the amazing job that Uncle Bob's did in revitalizing the garden bed structure out by the baseball fields. Some of the projects that the bench warmers have implemented at RSD13, and this is a long list, guys, so bear with me. Funded the Crow's Nest in the Coggins Regional High School gym, resurfaced the outdoor basketball courts, purchased a van for athletic team travel, purchased the stadium field LED scoreboard, $15,000 in scoreboards, custom gym door decals, repainting of the boys baseball and girls softball dugouts, including logos, supporting summer camps for all sports, supporting unified sports, custom track and field cross-country tent, scoring system for the track and field, custom batting circle for baseball, custom privacy screens for the turf bleachers, baseball shooting machine, landscaping project at the baseball field, $15,000 to update the workout facilities at the high school, a scholarship fund that grows each and every year for our student athletes, football passing machine, helped with the purchase of cheerleading mats, hydration machine for Wally Camp Athletic Complex, purchased training devices for tennis and volleyball teams, replaced the mat cover for the indoor high jump mat, shared cost of universal cable system for the weight room, purchased weight room benches for the rack systems, yearly support in donating $1,000 for jackets to any sport teams that earn all conference and all state honors, funded many seasonal sports banquets, scholarships for the graduating seniors, athlete of the year awards, efforts made to raise different funds at the concession booth at the Durham Fair, concession booth at home basketball games, developing the basketball advertising book, and the annual dodgeball tournament and the annual alumni game. Tirelessly advocating for the completion of the Wally Camp Athletic Complex, including the athletic field house and much anticipated field lighting coming this year. I'd like to recognize the officers for this year. President Henry Bugay is here tonight. Vice President Jeremy Renninghoff is also here. Vice President Nick Fiala, Treasurer Dr. Bill Lima, Assistant Treasurer Kevin Vigu, Secretary Anjanette Bugay, Assistant Secretary Dave Pagano, and the over 50 members that the bench warmers had to keep in their membership in a time where volunteerism is really, really hard in our community. So in closing, I'd like to thank you all for the amazing generosity and commitment to the athletes of RSD13. I have interesting collage coming to you this week, and I didn't want to bring it here in black and white, so you're gonna have to wait for it. But I'd like you guys all to please stand and be recognized for things that you guys. I think I'd get through that whole list, but ironically, I know that they could go through that list and there's things that are missing from that list. And you know, they never ask for anything other than to be there for our student athletes. So thank you. You guys are also welcome to stay. In fact, I'm requiring. Oh, okay, that was a lot. Don't do many more projects, so then I'll have to repeat them. Number 5, public comment. Do we have any in-person public comment tonight? Let's see in here. Do we have any public comment online? Looks like I don't want to butcher the last name. Mike, I'm gonna unmute you. If you're able to talk.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Hi. I didn't know if now or at the end was appropriate, but on the agenda is the reconfiguration. So I wanted to just talk briefly about that. So I attended the last public meeting where you, the presentation, excuse me, out of breath here, from the architect, and I reviewed all the plans and watched that meeting, and that was very beneficial and helpful and helped me. And to my personal opinion, there were two options there that were that made the most sense to me. But to step back a bit, I guess to step back a bit, I was a person from the beginning years ago when you guys were trying to close John Lyman, highly against closing John Lyman. I fought that. I voiced against that. But over, I would say, the last year and a half, listening to everybody's opinions and the facts and what you guys are trying to do, I would say I've changed that opinion. I fully support moving to a 1 K-5 school. If that means, you know, closing John Lyman, that's okay. I get the numbers and I get what you guys are trying to accomplish, and I completely support that 100%. So with that being said, though, I am still very against this reconfiguration, only due to, after seeing the last meeting and the presentation, that in my opinion, there, like I said, there were two options that made the most sense, where they were emptying Memorial and pulling those kids out and doing all the construction as fast as possible and getting that done. So the new school could be, you know, up and running as soon as possible. Those options made the most sense to me. And it just, to me, showed that doing the reconfiguration now just, it doesn't make sense in my opinion. I say leave the kids where they are. Keep John Lyman is a K-4 school. I have 2 kids. I will only have to do 1 drop off in the morning, 1 pickup at 1 location. So I just want to say, let's focus our efforts on, you know, getting the new school renovated and getting to a single K-5 school, and not do the shuffling in between and trying to figure it out. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to fight it all the way as much as I can and voice my opinion as I can. I'm on your guys' side in getting a K-5 school. I say, let's put our efforts in as a community in trying to get the word out to the community as best as we can, and having some open forums so we can get a bill passed, a funding passed to do this project. But this shuffling of kids as an interim plan, and now with pulling kids out of Memorial potentially to build, it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm going to keep voicing my opinion. I'm highly against it. And from my perspective, and the meetings I went to and the vote I went to, you know, as board members, I appreciate everything you guys do. I certainly don't have the time to vote and sit there. So, but from what I can see on the outside is there's a majority of the community is against this reconfiguration. And I watched teachers and even teachers. I saw my son's teacher was at that vote, and I saw teachers leave that vote crying and upset about it. And again, it doesn't make sense to me. I feel like just the community isn't being heard. And I feel like there isn't much input from the community on this reconfiguration. But again, to go back, I highly support a single K-5 school. I would love to see that happen. I would support that in any way I can. But after that presentation at the last board meeting, it just made no sense. It makes no sense to me. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mike.
Lindsay, what was his last name?
Heiligman. Heiligman. Do we have any other online public comment for items pertaining to the agenda? Okay, not seeing any hands. So we will close the remote public comment. Then we'll move on to number 6, approval of minutes. I will take a motion to approve the Board of Education special work session from November 8th, 2023. So a move. All right, moved by Lucy. Second by Bob. Any discussion, changes or deletions? I went through it, I did not see any. But as I've learned, our minutes are really long. Okay, no changes. Right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, any abstained?
Roll call.
The roll call on it, Amanda?
I'm sorry, you're-
Maura?
Aye.
Aye. Jason Stone, aye.
Lucy Petrella, aye. Lucy Delheimer, aye.
Jamie Robeck, aye. John Minoan, aye. Steve Delvecchio, aye.
All right, motion passes. Linda would be very excited. We all said aye. She's not with us tonight. She is enjoying a much needed trip very, very, very far away in New Zealand. So we miss her tonight. Board of Education regular meeting, November 8th, 2023. Motion to approve
So
by John,
second.
second by Jason. Any corrections, deletions, changes? None. All those in favor? Amanda?
Sorry, you have to bear with me. I'm home by myself with the kids. Aye.
From Maura?
Aye.
Bob Moore, aye. Jason Stone, aye.
Lucy Petrella, aye. Lucy Delheimer, aye.
Jamie Robeck, aye. John Minoan, aye. Steve Delvecchio, aye. Just a point, Steve probably shouldn't vote since you were a member at the time. I should abstain, huh?
Abstain, yeah. We'll have Steve abstain. Didn't think of that either. Thank you, Bob.
Well, poor Steve wasn't getting rules.
Right. And with that, I mean, before we go on to superintendent's report, since election officers got a little jumbled up at the beginning, but I would like to welcome Steve to our board. We're very excited to have you here tonight.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Wait a while. Wait a while. Excited to be here
It's
tonight.
still
We like it.
exciting. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, we'll move on to superintendent's report. Doug, you want to take that?
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. All right, so item A, grade level reconfiguration update. This is something that we're going to be bringing you every month. And before I jump into that, I want to let you know that we have got some dates and we'll have Meg send this out tomorrow. We unfortunately, Rusty, the lead architect with QA and M, had a family situation, someone deathly ill, that he was tending to, and he also got the flu. And so tonight was not the night, and we tried to think of how to cram it into next week, but it just wasn't going to work. And so what we're going to do is replicate on January 10th what we had attempted to do tonight. So that's the night of our regular January board meeting. And so we will schedule a work session with Rusty and Carson, the architects from QA and M, for 4:30 p.m. on the 10th. And we will also, as we had planned to do for tonight, invite anyone from our building committee and finance committee who are able to join us. We think that's important. And then we will delay the start of our regular meeting to 6:30, just so that the conversation does not get shortchanged, because it's important. And I think it's important that when we met with Lindsay and Kim and I and learned about kind of the setback, you know, our concern is we want to keep this ball moving forward. A lot of energy and momentum around what we're trying to do, and we're trying to meet deadlines, as you all know, with getting this to referendum, getting the application in for state reimbursement. And with that in mind, we've talked a bit about having community forums. And so we are also going to schedule 2 community forums for the following week. We're gonna need a little bit of time, and Rusty will, to take whatever input consensus the board has on the 10th and frame the options that will be presented at the community forums. And so the first one is going to be on the 17th, which is a Wednesday, from 4 to 6 p.m. And the second one is gonna be the following day on the 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. We wanted to do 2 different time slots and 2 different days to accommodate as many people in the community as possible. Now, people can come to both, but I think the hope is that they would come to one or the other, because we're trying to get as much input as possible. We have not determined a location yet. Again, we kind of are just scrambling. We only got the confirmation a couple hours ago from Rusty and Carson that these dates would work for them. But I think a programming note is we are going to be canceling the policy committee and building committee meetings that had been scheduled at 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock respectively on the 17th, in the hopes that many of you already had that time slot in your calendars and were planning to be part of that, and hoping that the others can join as well. And the one thing I want to get confirmation from the board before we start planning with Rusty and Carson and Lindsay and Kim and all of us around these forums, I thought I heard pretty clearly that you all prefer a very short presentation from Rusty to kind of frame wherever we are, and then the rest of the time to have like a small table setup that people had said had worked in the past in this district. And we would try to get people to mix up a bit. We couldn't force them to, but we'll try. So it's not like all people that come and just sit with their friends and have a conversation they've had many times, but that we get a diversity of opinions and have a way to capture that input through staff and maybe even board members that are there that could like serve as note takers and things like that. That's what we had heard you guys wanted us to plan for. That is very different from another way you could do this that I've seen done, which is more like what I call the public hearing format, where it's kind of like this. Rusty would get up and do his thing, and there'd be a microphone, and then individuals could come up and have, you know, almost like our budget hearings. And if you want, the board could react and respond in that setting. It seemed to me from our prior discussions that some of you had an experience with the small table thing. And we need to start kind of planning this now and getting our ducks in a row with the location. And depending on the format, we'll also dictate the location and thinking about, you know, microphones and chart paper and all that stuff. So any thoughts on that before we kind of move forward in planning?
I think that we thought that the roundtables would be a little bit more informal and able to have like real dialogue in small groups. I don't know how everyone else feels on it.
I agree.
Be nice to have discussion as opposed to question and answer.
Yeah.
And it did work out really, really well when that was done in the district. So.
Okay, thank you. So we will plan for that. And then with our planning for next year, with the reconfiguration for next year, I think I mentioned we're meeting weekly now with the 3 elementary principals, Jen, Kim, Kevin, myself, anybody else that needs to be there, depending on the topic. And we're going to keep doing that throughout the winter and into the early spring until kind of every detail is done. Tonight, a few things to share with you. First, we had a pretty lengthy discussion around the start and end times for not just these 3 schools, but all of the schools, because they all kind of have to work together when you talk about bus transportation and stuff like that. And kind of our first consensus that we reached was, let's not change anything at the middle school and the high school for sure, because they're not even thinking they're part of this now, and that kind of works, and we might just confuse folks. And we talked about a lot of different ways that we might structure the other 3 schools, and Kim was very helpful in kind of explaining some of the limitations of bus drivers and also the costs of doing things different than we're doing now. And so after a lot of conversations, the recommendation from us at this point, what we'd like to plan around is keeping all the start and end times the same as they currently are. We talked through a lot of different ways to do that differently, but this one seems to work. And one of the things we talk about a lot, and many of you have been or currently serve in leadership roles, and I know my training in leadership over the years has said, when you're making major changes, the more things you can keep the same, the better it is for the organization and for the stability. So, Brewster, Lyman, and Memorial are used to their time schedules that they currently have. And so that's what we will be recommending and wanting to plan around. And again, we don't have to set this tonight, but I guess I'd want to pause and see if anybody on the board has any questions about that decision or any other thoughts that you want us to go back and tinker with before we kind of move forward with this, because this is an important decision point to make in getting ready for next fall. And any concerns with that?
How the buses react to that?
I'll let Kim.
Well,
sit down.
right now we run 3 tiers. We have 17 buses on the road. We use 15 for Cognitive, Strong, and Memorial Run, and then 2 for Vinyl and Voag. From that, we split out 7 buses to Lyman and 10 to Brewster. So we use all our buses all day. So if we were to go down to, not all day, but for our runs, if we were to go down to 2 tiers, we would need more buses. How many? We didn't run the exact scenario because each bus is roughly $65,000 a year. So maybe would be 5 and up we might need. So even at 5, it'd be another $300,000. So if it wasn't an educationally driven decision to change the start time, is what I said, then it would be costly.
Another thing I'll mention is, and some of the board members were at some of these same meetings, we did hear from some of our parents early on a concern that if all 3 schools had the same start and ending time, parents that choose to drop off and pick up would be pretty challenged by that. Some even suggested that having 2 start at the same time, if they had in 2 different schools, which is unlikely or in the current scenario and setup, that they were concerned about that. So we kind of vetted that as a group, pulled out Google Maps and did all those things and looked at different ways to do this. And the principals feel very confident that you could drop 1 at Brewster and 1 at Lyman, and that would fall within the windows of when you're allowed to drop off, and also for pickup in the afternoon. So that also reinforced us being at this position, along with Kim's suggestion that if we were to try to get a little bit too cute with staggering all 3 start times, the busing situation might work adversely for us in terms of, again, one would be the funding side. The other is, could we even find the drivers? We know how hard it is to find drivers as it is. So we tried to avoid any scenario that would require more buses and more drivers.
And if we tried to do it with the number of buses we have now, the ride times would just be very high.
They would have to keep the window for dropping off and picking up longer.
They did not say that. And I don't know, well, you don't remember them saying that, do you? And or anyone else that was at the meeting, they felt pretty confident that the current window accommodates. Now, if you stop at Dunkin' in between, like the post office or something, the parent would need to be very deliberate and they would need to be very purposeful in, you know, if they wanted their child to be on time to school, which we want them all to be, to getting at the front end of the drop-off window or the pickup window for one of the schools and then going immediately to the other school. And anything that would kind of get in the way of that, we understand there can be, you know, traffic that we don't anticipate or things like that. We're not talking about that, but again, they felt very comfortable with that and that it would not require any additional staff time to man those hours, because again, that would then put us in a situation that would not be good. Okay, so we will plan for that. Again, that doesn't mean it has to happen exactly that way, but the closer we get to like the launch point, the more we have to kind of lock in these decisions. And I think it's helpful to check some boxes and say we've made a few tentative decisions in all of that. All right, moving on to staffing. We've mentioned several times the certified staff, teacher, and other certified staff surveys. So that's all been completed. They've all completed that. We have those results and we have begun to analyze those results. And that is going to help us make staffing decisions for next school year. Spoiler alert, everyone's not going to get what they want. Okay, I think we knew that going into it. We would know that too. But we are going to make recommendations and decisions that we feel like are in the best interest of the children. And I think all the teachers understand that as well. One of the nice things about the survey that Kevin and others put into it was, in addition to like, this is my first choice, second choice, third choice, there was an open-ended part where they could give us information about individual situations. And that's important for us too, because some people, and this goes back to the previous topic about start and end times. People want to know if those are changing because that might change their own childcare situation or other things that they have kind of going on, whether they're in district and their kids attend our schools or they're out of district and, you know, there's kind of a commute with that going on. I am thankful that we've got the before and after care program running and hope that will continue next year, because that might help some of these families too in some of these situations. So, you know, we intentionally started with certified staff. And of course, we've heard from some of the non-certified staff. Wait a minute, do we not matter? Yes, you matter if you're listening. I don't know how many people are watching, but so that survey is also going to go out, we think, around early January.
It's already gone out.
It's already gone out.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that survey has gone out and we will get those results back. When are those due back, Kevin?
They're due back, I believe, next Wednesday.
Okay. So probably on the other side of the first of the year, we'll be able to sit down and analyze those results. We started with the certified because we see there being more changes in the certified staff area with the grade levels. But there are non-certified staff also that work with certain grade levels historically. And we'll just have to see. I also think it's important. All these folks filled out surveys, but those individuals that serve within special education or within related services that serve learners that have special disabilities and situations, you know, Jen is going to do what Jen always does. And so we're probably going to see a lot more movement, as you would expect, with those folks, because we have children that are moving as a result of this. And those folks know that and they expect it, and they're going to be fine with it. We still surveyed them, but they kind of know they have to do that. And that's just not the certified staff. We have quite a few non-certified teacher assistants, ABAs and others that they kind of follow the kids based on the needs of the children. And so Jen does a great job with that. And we'll get her folks up to speed on that. So another thing that we did recently, and I'm happy, I feel like I'm bringing you a few more things. We haven't had a whole lot to share up till this point, is each of our principals has drafted a proposed building layout that would determine where not just grade level classrooms are going to be, but also other services in the school that might need to be shifted to accommodate a more logical organization of the grade levels. And so we've started reviewing that process. I think we looked through one of the schools, but we've got two more to review. And this is a very important thing to do while we are doing the staffing analysis, because there will be some people that will be moving buildings, and there will be others who will be moving rooms within buildings. And I think we would probably all agree that moving buildings is a much bigger shift than moving rooms. But if you've been teaching for a while, and if you've been in a room for a while, that can still be a change that you want to get on top of and feel good about. So in a perfect world, what we're looking to do in the early part of 2024, I don't want to give an exact date because we have to be ready for it, is once we've gone through all the staffing and all of the building layouts, is to publish to all the staff, here's the building layout, here's your assignment. This is not just the school, the grade level, the assignment, but this is, if you're someone that has your own room, some of them share, or if you do share, that's what this is going to look like. And once again, kind of like with start times, we can still make adjustments to this if we need to, but I would say this is the one thing I think staff right now are wanting, just for kind of peace of mind, to kind of know where they're going to be and to be able to start mentally preparing for next year. And some of them just want to know, quite frankly, are they moving or are they not moving, and where are they moving to? And I think those are fair questions. One of the things we'll let them know is all of this is subject to the approval of our budget and us actually having all the positions that we anticipate having. And so they will know that. And it will also be subject to the normal, what I would call transfer process, whereby if somebody comes in after we publish this and says, hey, I'm going to retire, we didn't know that, all of the employees, based on their bargaining agreements, will still have the opportunities to say, I said this in my survey, but I didn't know there was going to be an opening at that school in that grade level, or whatever the case may be. And we will honor that process and go through the regular process on that. So I kind of said a lot in that space. Does anyone have any questions about the building layouts or the staffing surveys, or kind of what we're thinking in terms of timelines?
If you want to share those after you've shared those layouts to the staff, or do you want to share that in a meeting?
The building, you mean like how you guys want to see them?
Yeah.
When do you guys want to see them? We could bring them here. It's a really good question, Lindsay, because I'll skip down a little bit, but it segues to this nicely. So I think you guys know I've been having meetings throughout the fall with all of the teachers in small groups, and a lot of what we saw in the survey I got from them in those meetings. And so I feel like we have a good handle on some of their concerns individually and collectively that will inform our work. Also, unbeknownst to me, our teacher bargaining unit had reached out to Craig, and through Craig to Brendan, their UNISER director, and wanted to make sure that their union was aware of their concerns. So Brendan made himself available at all three schools and had like open office hours. And so that happened over the last month or so. And today, just happened to be today, I met with him and with Craig and with Jessica Lafredo, who's the vice president of the union. And we had conversations about all of these topics, and I think we're in a good place. But they also asked, they know that we're giving these updates to you all, they want to know if they're going to get similar updates, and they don't all want to come to these meetings or tune in, which I understand. And so my plan, it's okay with you all, is following each one of these meetings to put something in writing to provide to them. And my kind of operating way is the board should have it first, and the staff should have it second. But if you all want us to show it to them before you guys get it, I can honor that too. When you all get it, the public kind of gets it too. But I think what I would like to do is go ahead and give you guys everything when we have it, and then give it to them like the next day or the day after in the form of like an email or something like that. And I think the exception to that might be, and you all tell me, like when we have the staffing assignments and the building layouts ready to publish, if it doesn't time with one of our meetings, like they want to know. That was the main point I heard from the union today, is they're chomping at the bit, and it's the not knowing that's causing some anxiety. So my thought there would be to maybe email it to you guys right before, about the same time we email it to them. I mean,
I
is
would
that,
say even the same time if we're emailing
Same
it,
time,
there's no
okay.
real reason to.
yeah, I mean, it's not a
hours.
mystery, and it's, it's, everyone should get it at the same time, because otherwise someone's gonna say, why did that school find out before that school? And
Right.
we have email and Parent Square and all those things, and we can get that out. So, yeah, so that's really it on that. And then the last thing I'll mention that we're starting to talk about, we certainly don't have this nailed down, but again, it all dovetails to the start times and the staffing assignments, is master schedules for the buildings. Now, principals do their own master schedules and do them well. And certainly the district is not interested in telling each school how they have to do their master schedules, but we do advise, and we want to make sure that there is some alignment. And this is, I think, important, because some of the things we've heard in these small group meetings is that with the new EL program, which again, we're getting a lot of feedback about, and you got a presentation on it tonight. We have to make sure that the schedules are structured in a way that provides the optimal amount of time, not just in individual classrooms, but also recognizes the possibility of some of this being co-scheduled across and among grade levels, which I think will be much easier facilitated under the new reconfiguration, where we just have 2 grade levels and a whole grade level in building, and have those opportunities. And so kind of planted those seeds with the principals and got them thinking, because, as much as I said before, with the start times, you keep as many things the same as we can. The master schedules are going to have to change anyway. We're changing the grade levels. And so the interconnectedness that we have to ensure is with the related arts staff, because we share that staff in a number of areas. And the same would be true for some of the special ed and support staff, whether it's alternate days or parts of days. And we need all of that to sync up. But I want to make sure you understand too that the learning needs to drive this, and it doesn't always in schools historically. A lot of times the learning is the afterthought, because everything gets packed around lunch and recess and all these other things. And I'm not saying we're not going to do lunch or recess. Don't hear me say that, but we feel like this reconfiguration gives us an opportunity to maybe get this right. And I specifically want to mention Memorial and Noel's here, and we've talked about this, but we don't have a plan yet. And specifically grade 5, although we would say it would apply to grade 4 as well. We think, and I know we're getting a student achievement report later from the board, we need to be more purposeful, especially in the upper elementary grades and in the middle school, with putting more dedicated time for mathematics and for English and language arts. And we haven't historically done that in this district 5 through 8. We've kind of done equal time for everything. And as we've talked a lot about, how can we improve in some of these areas? Some of it is programmatic, but some of it is simply, we haven't necessarily shifted to where a lot of the rest of the country and the state has, in those areas. And so, again, I'm not promising you we're gonna do any of this, but I'm gonna promise you, we are gonna try and look at it and try to make it work. Because what we're doing now isn't, in a lot of cases, for a lot of learners, and it really does dovetail nicely with what's happening with the new EL program. The other piece of that Cheryl Gonzalez at Strong and Noel Durkin, I should say last names more for Steve, people that may not know you guys. These are the principals of Strong and at Memorial, is that, again, not promising it, but if we could find a way to make the 6th grade master schedule at Strong a bit different than the 7th and 8th grade schedule, recognizing that that's a big transition. And if we could align what becomes the 4-5 schedule with what becomes the grade 6 schedule, we think we could help our learners be a lot more successful transitioning to the upper middle school grades and eventually to the high school, and also trying to do in 6th grade minimally and eventually 7th and 8th, getting more dedicated time for ELA and for math, which we haven't had historically. So again, this probably sounds like a bit of a sidebar from the grade level configuration, but I want to point it out as something that I see as an opportunity that we probably wouldn't have if we weren't doing that at this moment. And I think it's something exciting. And as we get more information along those pathways, we can bring it back here and or to the Student Achievement Committee based on the board's preference in that area. But so yeah, I know that was a longer report than normal, but I guess my core message is we're doing a lot right now in anticipation, even though there's not maybe a lot to show for it. But having the time to do this and do it well is very helpful. And we fully realize that the delay of Rusty's work session means that you all could tell us to pivot this in a slightly different direction for next year. And we will do that. But unless you do, and until you do, we're going to plan for exactly what you voted on in September. And we feel like it's not wasted time or energy because we have some good plans in the works. So any questions about any of that? Anyone want to add anything from the group?
And looking at that 6th grade, is that also in anticipation of that 5th grade moving up that had the Yale program this year that wouldn't have it next year?
Possibly, yes. We are, as again, this is kind of spilling over into student achievement. We are exploring the possibility of taking the expeditionary learning, the EL program that we started K-5, and moving it into the middle school and possibly into grade 6 as early as next fall. Again, we haven't made that decision officially. We want you all to be okay with that too. But I know that Cheryl was very interested in that. I can tell you the 6th grade team that I met with, again, I don't want to pin them down, but they've heard good things. And I think it makes sense. These 5th graders have worked very hard, as you heard tonight. And I think they would benefit more from being able to continue in that program as 6th graders and maybe eventually as 7th and 8th graders. I don't know that we feel like moving it to all 3 grades in the middle school next year would be really practical or doable. But I mean, Stephanie has pointed out that just about every district that is implemented now is either currently implementing K-8 or planning to do that as part of their implementation. And it makes sense, I think, for us as a district. But the only reason I'm kind of hedging a little bit on that is there would be a budget implication to expanding that program. And so we will continue talking to you about that in this setting, in student achievement, and then during the budget proposal, if it ends up being in there. But yes, to answer your question, Lindsay, the reason we first started talking to Cheryl about a possible different schedule for Strong is the feedback I got and she got from teachers over there that EL would be a good program, but to do it in the amount of time that's currently allocated for grade 6 English language arts would probably set us up for failure in that implementation. And we don't want to do that. And oh, by the way, we could use help with math as well. So why don't we look at math's scheduling while we're doing all of this?
When was the math curriculum most recently updated? Wasn't there some work
I'll
before-
defer to Stephanie on that one.
I think it was before we arrived. I know that there's been like some modifications. They're always, modifying their assessments but as far as a full
Too bad Noel just walked out, 'cause I know
change,
she would know that.
it's
answer.
been probably since I would say 2020. I think I saw 2021. It
That's
was
what I
the
thought
last
too,
time in
yeah.
the, yes,
And that was more significant modifications than just the tweaks previously, right?
yes.
Yeah, we're not in a position where we feel like a programmatic change to math is what we need as a district. We think we need to first take a shot at implementing that program with more dedication of time so that all of our learners can truly benefit from that program.
Well, that was the pages of the notes to digest.
All right, anything else on the grade level configuration?
No, thank you. That was actually.
Okay, so for the other part of my report, I'll repeat some things that have already been said. I want to congratulate our officers, Lindsay, Lucy, Jay. Thank you for your service. Whether you volunteered or were voluntold by your peers, I don't know how all that works, but nobody said no, and I think that's great. Steve walked away for a minute, but I want to formally welcome him to his first official board meeting seated. He and I had a chance to meet for about an hour, and Ken was part of that, and Ken's the most important person, as you know, getting the technology and all of that set up, and just glad to have you here. I know it's like sipping from a fire hose right now, and if we go too fast or say something that you're not following, just stop us, whether it's me or one of us. I also want to mention, this is going to seem like 15 years ago, but I think it was back in August that, we talked as a group about the district strategic plan. And there was an ask from the board to try to look at some more detailed action plans, and especially things that would look multiple years into the future. That was actually music to my ears, because most of the places I've been, I've had trouble convincing staffs and boards to do multiple year looks, because people don't want to commit more than a year at a time, because that's what budgets are and things like that. But I think it's integral to the planning. And so now that Lindsay is officially chair, I'd like to work with her to talk about when we might be able to bring some information back to you all for your consideration in that space. I had originally thought the January 10th board meeting would be a great time to do that. Now that we're shifting this work session, I don't know that it would be. I think our board retreat could be as well, but my only hesitation on the board retreat is I know there's already some things that we've talked about doing there. And those are important things too, but also I think it's important for the public to also kind of see this discussion that we're having. And again, I feel like I'm stealing Lucy's thunder with the student achievement, but there was a pretty lengthy discussion at student achievement about pathways, and Deb and Katie and Liza and others, we had some teachers as part of that, and part of that conversation is this is a long range plan. I mean, we've mapped some of this out, and it would probably take us 6 to 7 years to fully realize and have our learners get the full benefit of that, knowing that it's going to take several years to fully spin up. And you'd have to actually enter Coggin-Shog as a 9th grader to take full advantage of those pathways. But these are the types of things, and even potentially moving expeditionary learning into the middle school level, and changing master schedules and things like this. And the reconfiguration, these are major things. And we'd like to get them on a document or two on a timeline that we can show you all and show the public, and make sure you're kind of okay with us going on this trajectory. I was inspired a little bit about this from the training that the CAVE training that Lindsay and I were able to attend earlier this month, where they talked about goals and they talked about strategic plans and missions and visions and things like that. But they also talked about initiatives. And these are all major initiatives. So I'm kind of stealing the terminology from the CAVE people. But the statement that was made, and Lindsay heard the same thing, so you could agree or disagree or take a different spin on it, was that it's important for boards and staffs to agree on a handful of major initiatives, and then kind of as a united front, go out and share those and promote those and defend those to the community, and then make sure that your budgets and things like that align to those initiatives, so it doesn't feel like each year we come to the table with a bunch of kind of random things in the budget. And I think some of you know I've done this work a lot over the years as a superintendent and before as a superintendent, and I'm just excited that we have some initiatives now that show real promise and that people are excited about and that do align to the other elements of our strategic plan currently. But we want you all to feel good about those too. So again, maybe it won't be January, but I feel very passionate that to the extent possible, even if it wasn't a vote, if there was board consensus on these things, that really helps Kim and I and our whole team feel better about this year's budget proposal and being able to point to it and point community members and teachers and everybody else to it and say, you know, this is where we're going, and we're not going to come every year and, you know, we may tweak, but we're actually going to stick to some of these things and be committed to them. So any thoughts or comments on that? Think that sounds good or crazy or?
So you're looking to come back with more concrete timelines for you know what we had asked. So what something
Yes.
what their education looks like 5 years down the road.
Yes, that's what we're aiming for. Now, again, it may not be everything you've asked for, but that's the other reason to come to you, because then you can come back and tell us, okay, it's great that you gave us this, but we'd also like to see X, Y, and Z. In the immediate short term, I'm mostly concerned about these kind of major structural initiatives that could have budget impact, more so in the out years, but definitely in the early years. And again, I already gave you one example, so it's not like a spoiler or anything like that. It's more of a preview. Like if we were to propose moving expeditionary learning to the middle school, say over the next 3 years, and phase it in with that rising group of sixth graders next year, which is an idea that's been kicked around. You know, how does the board feel about that? Because that would commit us not just from a budget standpoint, but from a curriculum standpoint, from a professional learning standpoint. It would even then impact like the work we would do to support Cheryl in the master schedule, which again might only need to change for one grade level next year. It might be better to do that, but eventually that whole school might be looking differently in the way that they organize their time. And so, yeah, those are the kind of things. Yes.
We'd probably be looking in early February. Do you want to try to tie that to our next meeting?
We would aim to be ready by the next meeting. I just didn't know with the 2-hour work session, it couldn't be another work session. Ideally, it could have been a work session on January 10th, but now that's going to be eaten up by that. So maybe we could like pencil it in for the 10th and then kind of see what the rest of the agenda looks like.
Yeah, because I would think that January should be pretty light, because we won't have policy or have committee reports that month.
Well, you have a document of some sort, I mean, we can take the document.
I was gonna say, I mean, something definitely we wanna.
Yeah, the document's not done yet. It's just, I'm trying to get our folks to the place where like, if we have this deadline, then we'll have the document.
Well, even if it's just a list, I mean, it focuses on the major items that you're looking at.
Yep.
You know, and then we can have detailed discussion after that.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
We can either put together a Word document with questions, and then we can bring that to a
Yes.
short meeting.
Yes,
the
that would be great.
Okay. Okay. With that.
And then the last thing is, you know, for those that celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy Hanukkah to those that celebrate that. And to everybody, I think everyone pretty much celebrates New Year's. Happy New Year. Look forward to seeing you all back here in January. And some of you sooner that do building committee next week. Whichever genius put that on the December 20th. That was probably me, actually.
Hopefully not.
If they want to cancel it, I'm just saying, I think you guys got an email from Tim Fisher today. There is a concert that night, so hopefully it's not a long building committee meeting.
It won't be long.
No, it won't be long.
That's the high school concert, right?
Yeah, the high school band and chorus is, I think, 7:30.
We just got an email about it today.
7:30 is what I have written
Email
down.
came out today.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Probably doesn't last more than an hour.
With this
The building
hour,
committee.
no. Very funny, because he just responded about 2 seconds ago that he was good with the agendas. All right, so we will move on to staff reports, and Kim said she has a brief staff
I do,
report
just
on
a
finance.
couple of different topics, but they're brief. From November, we finished out the general fund 36% expended, 95% encumbered still, and 38% of our revenue has been received.
Great job.
That's it. Minimum wage is increasing on January 1st, so from $15 to $15.69 an hour. So with that, we will need to increase our non-certified substitute pay to $102 a day to meet that requirement. So that'll start on 1/1/24. The 22-23 audit has been complete with no findings. They will be here to present hopefully at the February meeting. I will not, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, be at the January meeting. I have some really great family stuff going on. So that's my first meeting I've missed in my 7 years here. So we can wait for February.
I approve
Or you can do it in June.
We trust you.
You just send the audit out to us ahead of time.
Absolutely. I have hard copies and I have electronic. I will have hard copies and electronic. Athletic trainer update. So we still are just having games covered. Unfortunately, we would like to be able to have practices covered, but we just don't have a person. We've signed a contract. I have signed a contract with ATS out of Middletown, and they are, this goes a week or two back. And they are posting for a person. The arrangement with them was they weren't going to post for someone until we signed a contract, obviously, so that they knew that they could gainfully employ that person. So it is posted. I'm not sure where we stand on their interview process, but that is in the works. Todd had said today, as we were talking about it, if there was an athlete from another sport that needed to see a trainer, because the trainer is only at the basketball games, they can see them during that time. So, say cross country, they can come to a basketball game, but the trainer will talk to them and look at them then. But I know it's not ideal, but if they find a trainer for us, we tend to sign with them for, next few years.
And do we have to provide the trainer for the indoor track? Because we're the home team and it's down in, Hill House.
So I don't know the answer to that question. I can
think
ask
we
Todd that.
do.
I mean,
Is Hill House the one that got rescheduled? Isn't that one of the,
that's tonight.
that's the one, okay.
Is the issue the lack of trainers out there, or is the issue the pay?
Oh, no, it's the lack of trainers. We had a pretty good deal with Select. We were actually on the lower end of what they were charging us, and we were very happy with Ethan, but then he left somewhere else. So with the contract with ATS out of Middletown, they're actually twice the price. And we haven't turned that down because we recognize the need. So I addressed the board last month and told you guys it'd be prorated, so we'd be fine for this year. But for the budget season for next year, we're gonna have to budget at the full amount. I did talk with Todd about, and he's been, trying to brainstorm other ways. A lot of districts have hired a person, an athletic trainer, but that would increase our FTE. But that's the way you're gonna get somebody, and you're gonna get them,
And we're paying benefits.
and then we're
all of
paying
it, yeah.
benefits, yeah. So, and that would be, the cost of a trainer would probably be equal to what we would pay for a contractor. But then the benefits piece is that, we'd have an additional cost if the person were to take that. So that's a decision that I had Todd included in the budget, the full price. I also had him write up a proposal for an FTE. So that's something we'll talk about during the budget process. So it is not the funding. It is simply, we cannot get a person.
Do we have other districts that are battling the same issues?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a big problem that the shoreline principals talk about all the time. And like I said, a lot of them are hiring, when they're getting a person, they're offering them a position so that
That seems to be the route.
I was just gonna
And
ask,
that's-
does it seem like it's easier to do it that way
Yeah,
and keep someone?
I would imagine Ethan probably would have
in a heartbeat.
accepted a job from us. Yeah,
Probably,
so,
what I've heard from my colleagues is the ethical dilemma in that is that they're getting a full-time salary and benefits package, but it really isn't truly a full-time job. And there's, because of certification issues, there's not a lot else that a district could ask them to do. In Virginia, we had full-time trainers that we employed, but most of them were on teacher contracts and would teach a class or two. Might even be a class in athletic training or anatomy and physiology or something like that. And so we'll explore those options, but talking to my colleagues, it doesn't sound like that's an easy thing for them to navigate in terms of, looking at Kevin in terms of what the State Department of Education says they have to have credentials wise to actually teach a class. And then it would also, we'd have to talk to our teacher union about, this is a non-teacher, would they accept them? So are they, we can work through all those things and we will look at all those options. It's still going to come down to an investment probably either way, whether, to Kim's point, whether we go with a full-time contractor or whether we go with an actual employee.
Seems like it would fit into the health services pathway.
That's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking.
There's plenty of other things for
Yeah.
a person to do.
and medically trained, maybe Jen could use them in the nursing department, so.
Yeah, and-
Creative.
And I know that Deb
We're
and
gonna
Katie
just
are
match
looking
that
into
to-
that as they're trying to build out that pathway. It might require the trainer to take some courses to get a state certification that would make them eligible to do that, but maybe we can even build that into the budget in terms of incentive.
In my opinion, it's certainly worth it, and also build a relationship with the students too, in
Yeah.
that way as well, too. If somebody's here long term, someone they can trust, someone that they understand, at least both at the middle school level and at the high school level with all these athletes that you have. So I think it's an investment, even though it may cost us more, it's definitely an investment. I think it's worth taking a look at.
Okay. A little bit later on in the agenda under new business, we will I'll ask for a motion to accept the DECD grant. That is the grant from the state of Connecticut for the lights in the bathrooms at Fieldhouse. I have submitted every bit of lot of paperwork that they were looking for. That's all submitted. The last thing was just a resolution from this body accepting the grant, and then I can send that in. And I was able to get information from Musco on the lighting that is proprietary, so I sent a nice big thing in, drawings and stuff for their review, so that we don't have to bid that out. So haven't heard yet, could be 3 to 6 months before we hear. So that's what that piece is. 24-25 budget. The schools have submitted their budgets and their proposals. And Timmy and I have been going through and looking at corrections and reclassifications that were being made. And then we're going to be coming up with some preliminary numbers, which, then we'll go to the administrative team and Doug and have one-on-one meetings with the principals and all that. So that is in motion for 24-25. That's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. New business and what we just talked about. We have 2 votes we need to do on funding. The first one is the vote to accept the Merwin Fund donation. So do you want to talk about?
Yes,
Merwin Fund?
yes. Again, all thanks to the Merwin Trust and their generosity over the years, and a little bit of extra generosity this year. So, for Steve's benefit, for the rest of you that don't remember, since we are trying to do things more learner-centered and more innovative, we have gone to the Merwin Trust and asked if they would be willing to give us some undesignated funds that then teachers could apply for like internal grants to do things that are more innovative and would kind of demonstrate some of these approaches to learning. And that's happened now for 2 years in a row. And we've given you those examples here, and some of you have actually had the chance to visit some of these programs and classrooms, and it's very inspirational. And we like it because we're not telling the teachers how to innovate. We're saying, hey, innovate, and here's some donated dollars that you can use to do that. And they've given us $10,000 the past 2 years for that, and they're doing that again. However, in addition to that, and I had nothing to do with this, so credit Diane Walsh or whoever else may have been involved in this, but they're also giving a separate $10,000 donation to the robotics program at the high school. And
It's awesome.
it really is. And again, stealing all the thunder here again, but one of the pathways we talked about is like a engineering manufacturing type pathway that would include a lot of the robotics that we offer and maybe others that we don't currently offer. And so it's just nice to see that being kind of recognized, and that is really going to be helpful to that program. So the motion would need to be to accept $20,000 in donations from the Merwin Trust.
Um,
Okay. Public news,
Second.
vote to accept the Merwin Fund donation, in the amount of $20,000. Second by John. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Roll call, Amanda? Maura?
Aye.
Bob Moore, aye.
Jason Stone, aye.
Lucy Petrella, aye. Lindsay Dahlheimer, aye.
Jamie Rebecca, aye. John Monona, aye.
Steve Delvecchio, aye.
Amanda, I.
Motion passes.
Just one more note, I think it'd be good for Diane Walsh to present sometime this year some of the stuff that she's been doing, including bionic hands, all this other stuff that's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
She does quite wonders with the budget she has, and I've been to some of the competitions, it's like, it's.
Yep.
Yeah, she looks at the other things like, wow.
I think she would enjoy that, and I think you all would enjoy that too.
Yeah.
If you haven't been in her classroom or had the opportunity to see what goes on there, it's if we could replicate that everywhere, that would be our vision of education. I mean, it's just, you know, it's really remarkable.
Right, number 9B. I think I have that motion. That would be. The motion for this one would be resolution to execute an assistance agreement with the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development and to authorize the acceptance of the DECD grant for bathrooms and athletic stadium lighting at Coggeshall Regional High School in the amount of $430,000.
So.
By
Second.
John, second by Jason. Any discussion? Second, all those in favor? Maura,
Aye.
Amanda,
I.
Bob Moore, aye. Jason Stone, aye.
Lucy Petrella, aye. Lindsay Dahlheimer, aye.
Jamie Rebecca, aye. John Monona, aye.
Steve Delvecchio, aye.
Everyone knows mentions motion passes. Fantastic. We'll move on to new business 9C, policy review. I'll hand it over to Bob.
This is the second read of two proposed policies that have come from Shipman. The first one is the Code of Ethics for responsible and professional responsibility for personnel. And the second one is education and educator and increasing educator diversity. We had these asked if there's any, if there are no comments, and move that we adopt them.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor adopting both the increasing educator diversity and code of ethics and professional responsibility for personnel. Amanda,
I.
Maura,
I.
Bob Moore, aye. Jason Stone, aye.
Lucy Petrella, aye. Lindsay Dahlheimer, aye.
Jamie Rebecca, aye. John Monona, aye.
Steve Delvecchio, aye.
Motion passes. And on to committee reports. Let's go back. You're always back to that. Hand it over to you. for building, committee meetings from November 15th, 2023.
I have it as November 15th. I think I got it.
Excuse me, Bob. You might continue talking. Do you guys mind if I get a coffee quick?
Oh,
I
okay.
don't want to interrupt.
No, anytime.
Thanks. I started to.
Ah.
It called it.
Oh, this is the best part.
I'm just trying to start on the right foot.
Yeah.
I'll give him the notes.
Picket Lane, most of you have noticed there are speed tables there now. And I think they come out pretty good. They are at different, we plan to have them at crosswalk areas, and they're not too offensive when driving over. So that was part of the Picket Lane finishing. Is a Picket Lane, this is all in the current budget. They're not, there was no additional cost for this, right?
That's all in that page.
On the same
Phase two.
page. The Picket Lane 3 project is basically reviewing the sidewalk proposal. The town of Durham has developed a sidewalk proposal. We had some comments on it. We obviously we forgot to send them to the town.
Forgot, we just didn't have them formalized.
Right, so we need at the next. We don't have one in, we have one next week, so we can send those comments to. The only really question I think was the layout. The town has proposed to have them 25 feet off the roadway so that cars can park vertical, vertical to the sidewalk. And the building committee thought it would be better not to have them parking that way and have the sidewalk closer to the roadway and provide a barrier and go around. So it's going to be interesting because the first half of the sidewalk is on town property. And so there might be some kind of compromise worked out at that point. In terms of the state grant, we just had a motion on. We would try to get with the money that's left over from the construction of it, a preliminary plan ready for the layout of the bathrooms. And we were trying to, Kim was going to get an engineer or somebody to do it. I don't know if we've been able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we may have a kind of a possible layout of the bathrooms in the building. We talked about men's and women's and a handicap or parent facility. So if and the idea was that if we had these ready, then when we finally got the grant, we could go out to bid right away on getting that installed, and hopefully we'll be there sooner than later. And they changed some fencing to put the fencing around and put some security gates on it. One of the really important things that's kind of under the vision of everybody is we have been looking at a funded fire protection system for both the high school and Strong School. And we were looking to really build a separate pump station. There's one out there now in front of the central office parking lot. It's underground. And we spent a lot of time trying to look at that, and we've come up with the decision that because of the municipal water system, we don't need the fire protection is adequate at both buildings due to the pressures available from Middletown water system. So we have savings of, I don't know, $600,000 or something like that.
We've saved 600,000. The project will still cost between 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll have savings on it.
So anyway, that was, and so we don't need those pump systems. So, and the rest was, they were getting ready to meet on the have the joint meeting on the reconfigurations. That was it, I think.
All done within an hour.
Oh, yeah.
How he likes it within an hour.
It's a great committee.
Yep. Committee report, Student Achievement Committee. Hand that over to Lucy. We had a.
You don't have to make a report, Doug already.
Sorry. Change the order of the agenda next time.
Hey, it was an extensive meeting, and even though my notes are summarized, there's still a lot of notes. The first was we discussed the high school pathways. Deb Stone, the principal, explained where the high school was with regard to career and college readiness pathways, where they are now and what the plan was moving forward. There were meetings with Westbrook, which has a very robust program. When the district received a dual enrollment grant, it set the plan in motion to start to develop pathways. The goal is not necessarily to have everyone, all the students, on a pathway and have that be the only path they take, but to have robust experiences in things that the students are interested in to help them make future decisions without costing a lot of money. Originally, the plan was to have 14 pathways, but there aren't enough students in the high school to do that. So 4 pathways with some branches were decided upon at this time. Those pathways are technology/manufacturing, health and human services, business, and marketing. Initially, the focus will be on health and human services, and a meeting was set up for December 11th to map out the courses that may be offered next year. Music and arts individual pathways will continue to be available. At this time, none of the pathways will be completed by any of the students unless they are freshmen coming in next year. Those sophomores are able to jump in or take an elective as a junior. There's been a lot of talk about not having study halls for the students because they would like to be in a class that interests them than in a study hall. So that's another part of the initiative as to why they're looking into this. These pathways give students the opportunity to feel out their interests before making a life-changing decision. It gives them the option to accumulate college credit at a reasonable cost. It picks up the level of learning by giving robust offerings, and it helps guide students on a path to explore. It also gives students voice in their learning. It was recommended that there be career offering focus at the end of 8th grade as well, and that the Achievement Committee continue to be updated every couple months on progress. Additional details about this, because it's quite a long discussion we had, are available in the minutes, which are now posted online. There was also an update on the high school personal finance courses. At this time, the course is available in Power School and 26 students are registered. The finance course will be a graduation requirement for the current freshmen. The course will be offered every other year. A macroeconomics class is being piloted this year as well with 14 students registered. We went on to have an EL update. The implementation of modules and skill blocks was started in October. All block has been started in grades 3 through 5, and most grade levels are finished with module 1. Feedback received from teachers, by coaches, and interventionists was that phonological awareness skills are increasing overall, but some students are still struggling with background knowledge. A professional day was held on November 7th, and teachers were given the opportunity to collaborate and or work independently. While looking at one-to-one coaching with better lessons, Mrs. Corrado has been collaborating with other districts, and our district has been accepted into the professional learning cohort. The first meeting was the next day, and that meeting would focus on multi-tiered support systems and how to look at the data and make information decisions in the classroom. You correct me if I kind of mix it up. Since the skills blocks end at 2nd grade, there is an expectation that 3rd graders will have really strong spelling skills. There is continued discussion around this and ways to bring in more assessments that focus on encoding, which is spelling for 3rd grade. No decision has been made whether or not to bring EL up to the 6th grade, and Doug spoke about that before, so it's still being discussed in the works. Vocabulary continues to be an area of concern. There was a question about if and how writing skills are incorporated into the program, and Mrs. Corrado stated that writing is done in the content modules in K2, and grades 3-5 writing is done during the all block. The third item we discussed was the teacher evaluation update. There was a PDEC meeting on November 7th where the current evaluation plan was reviewed and current practices that are part of the state guidelines were documented. The group then focused on areas they strongly felt should be changed. Smaller subcommittees will meet to look at possible modifications and then convene with a larger group. It is hoped to finalize the document in April and bring it to the Achievement Committee in May. The document should reflect district, or would be reflecting district-specific criteria as well as the state mandates. Item number 4 was the 22-23 Connecticut Accountability Report. Slides were presented with information on the state's 12 accountability indicators, and a graph of the district scores in each area was shown, along with the targets and the overall state scores and percentages. Mrs. Siegel reviewed the indicators that have gone up or down by 2%. Growth increased in ELA and math. Science Performance Index went down, but that test is taken every 3 years. Chronic absenteeism improved. The percent of students passing exams went down, and the 6-year graduation for high-need students went down slightly. The district's total accountability index increased from 76 to 78.9. The numbers on this state accountability measure are very confusing. The main interest of the board is to know if the district students are making progress and what resources are needed to make it happen. Websites were included at the end of the slides for further information about the state's indicators. While the data is extensive, it doesn't show specific strengths and weaknesses or yearly trends. Mrs. Siegel added that the district uses diagnostics 3 times a year in grades K through 8, which are more helpful to the growth of a learner. K5 uses DIBELS as a screener and diagnostic in literacy for math iReady in grades K through 8. I'm not sure if I have those grades, but those are the two screenings. A lot of assessments are already incorporated into the EL program. Item number 5 we discussed with math practices and curriculum program changes in grades K through 5. The district has very good math curriculum, but the areas of progress monitoring and assessment need to be improved. This is being worked on. The EL program has seamless points where the teacher can collect data. So the goal is to have a data collection system available in math for the teachers for next year. The district does have sufficiently skilled teachers in every area. Some are using the building thinking classrooms, which allow students to be up at the walls, which I'm assuming means that they're working on whiteboards and
It's,
They have
yeah, it's
blackboard
all
too.
vertical, standing up.
yeah. And learning and collaborating with one another. This model encourages students to solve problems in a way that makes sense to them, but also to look at what their peers are doing. Overall, the district is moving towards a less traditional math class, as Doug was alluding to, and bringing in more of today's models to be more learner-centered. While there is a math text for grades K through 5, textbooks don't offer everything that is available digitally, and more manipulatives are being used. So the books are really being used as a supplement. This meeting was recorded, and the link to the recording is listed on the first page of the Achievement Committee minutes, if anyone wants to take the time to listen to it in more details. I don't know if there's anything else.
No, I think it was a really good meeting.
It was excellent.
Yeah, it was a lot of back and forth, especially with Deb Stone and the high school and talking about pathways. And I'd suggest everyone just take a glance through the minutes. There's a lot in there, especially about the pathways and how those.
There's a
work
lot
out
more.
too.
Yeah, even though I wrote a lot, there's still a lot more.
And I think some of them might become standing agenda items for now, or every couple months, as you guys had more information on those pathways, so. It was incredibly beneficial. Anyone have any questions on student achievement? Nope. All right. Board communications and professional development. So this is the item that's always been our board communications. I did want to start, if it's okay with the board, to add professional development as a standing agenda item for this, along with board communications. So a lot's been going on with CAVE and the state, and as Doug said before, him and I went to the CAVE CAPS convention. Was last month? Less than a month ago, correct? Yeah. And a lot of it was really beneficial. A lot of the professional development given that day was amazing. And Doug and I were able to go to the Sunday portion, the portion for new board members and the leadership track. So I was able to go and stay for the portion. Steve wasn't able to go for his due to work obligations. It was during the day. So I managed to get him his board packet, his new orientation.
Very much.
And we're working with CABE to try to find some ways for the board to do professional development outside of a 9 to 5. It's incredibly difficult, and it's been a lot of the stuff that CABE has really said that we need to be offering more of. In regards to professional development, there's a few things I would like to do. I'd like to take a look at when we come to budget for professional development. And I know there's a certain amount in there, and I want to make sure that there's enough in that to do the professional development that we should be doing and need to be doing. The state itself is, and the state itself has an unenforceable state statute to address new board member orientation. And just like I said before, I think we got to find a way to do that outside of a work day and options for that. But again, it's not enforceable because you can't afford, the state can't force an elected official to do that, but we do want to encourage it. And if everyone remembers Nick from CABE, when he came down, I'd like to bring him in a little more often, especially when we're looking at goals and objectives and our retreat. He's really excited to come back and work with us, along with the CABE council, Conrad Blashing. He's just been incredibly beneficial. In regards to some stuff going on with CABE currently, we had most recently the newly elected president of CABE, who's a board member from Windsor, Leonard Lockhart, appointed me chair of the CABE State Relations Committee. So that's currently a committee that's working to advocate for legislation and concerns that board members have across the state. There's been 4 commitments for CABE to go and really advocate the state, and those would be to commit state resources to diminish the ESSER fiscal cliff and allow districts to continue successful interventions such as support for counselors and mental health staff, allow flexibility in the implementation of the kindergarten start date, invest in programs that promote the training, hiring, and retention of educators of diverse backgrounds, and increase opportunities for districts and RESCs to grow your own programs. And the final one, which had been really big, most recently last week at a state relations meeting, to allow flexibility in the implementation of the reading program mandate to recognize successful programs. So right now, a lot of districts have applied for waivers. We obviously implemented EL education, and a lot of districts have been granted some transitional waivers, a meets expectations waiver, which is allowing districts to take portions, and then some were just flat out denied. And so those boards have really asked CABE to really advocate for that. So we're working with that. And CABE also appointed a co-area director position to myself, Westbrook, and Madison for Area 8. And the main objective under that area director is going to be hosting the legislative breakfast with the state representatives to advocate for those same concerns and any other concerns. And as we move towards the season, and we want to maybe appoint someone else to that co-director position, I'm more than happy to have any one of you do that. So I think the legislative breakfast should be hosted in Westbrook in January. It should be, we should know that in a couple of days. I think the board chair from Westbrook's waiting to get back to me. So hopefully we can do that. Under professional development and leaving that in there next month, I'd like to come back and just highlight any current professional development that's being offered in the next month or so of that meeting. Just to have that highlighted. Anyone have any questions? I know that's a lot too.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. It's been fun. I don't know.
I don't have a question. I just have one thing to say to the group, because so everyone knows I work in government affairs and legislation. I've been doing that for about 6, 7 years now, so if anyone has pertaining to this, questions or anything having to do with talking with the state representative or senator, I'd be happy to help anyone here out, since that's what I do for a living.
And that was, I looked right at you when I.
Yeah, I know.
Because
That's
I
what
think that
wanted to
whole
say.
area, they wanted to make sure, there's been a lull in area 8 on the legislative breakfast, and I think they're really trying to ramp that up, but the Madison chair and Westport chair are amazing. They're wonderful chairs, and I'm sure they'd be excited to maybe work with them.
Absolutely, I'm planning.
I mean, the voluntold sometimes, but I knew that would probably be a rally.
Yeah, that is.
So I'll continue to talk on that one. Does anyone have any board communications? I know we have a significant amount of events coming up for the holidays. I believe Brewster had their concert today. Lyman had theirs yesterday, correct? And then the 20th for the high school. Anyone has anything else?
We had a very thoughtful communication from Tina Herbert,
Yes.
who is a former teacher here related to the pathways and student achievement. And I think she raised a number of issues that I would like to, be addressed at another student achievement meeting and perhaps even in the budget planning.
Yep.
It looked like, she was a former tech ed teacher here, so she had some interesting points of view, and I thought it'd be worth spending some time going over them with the student achievement committee when we have the next meeting.
Yep, and I had a significant conversation with Tina as well, and I know that that Doug has that communication as well, so we'll continue to put some of that on student achievement. I think it's really important.
As does the high school administration. I think they would welcome that conversation too.
Well, I think she raised some good points, and and if they're not filling some of those gaps, to try to fill some of them.
Yep, absolutely. Don't have any other communication? Okay, we'll close out that one. And we'll continue to let that agenda item evolve, but hopefully we can continue to report on professional development we're all a part of. Public comment. Do we have any in-person public comment?
A little bit. Exciting here from Middlefield again. Hi. I just wanted to reiterate, similar to the caller at the beginning of the meeting, I'm in support of the end goal. In terms of getting a cohesive K-5 school over at Brewster. But I do still think, like I voiced last month, that the transition plan is a bit premature. Things like we're going through and doing building layouts of existing schools, and we don't even know if we might need to temporarily move kids from Memorial into those schools. So, building a new school is not going to be easy, even if it goes smoothly. And the current plan seems to inject more unnecessary or more change than necessary. Kind of harkening back to something that Doug mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, where it's not really a great or recommended leadership or change management strategy, right? Just try to impact people once significantly, but not many times over an extended period of time. So just wanted to kind of bring that out here. And then something else to consider would be if you were to keep the kids in Lyman and Brewster during the Memorial construction, maybe overflow them into Brewster and Lyman, thereby minimally impacting the parents and buses, because you could most likely mimic the current schedules for the most part, obviously with some shifting to get the increased volume of the Memorial kids to those other schools or to the existing schools. So that's that on that. As far as the roundtable to further discuss this stuff on January 17th, I think it's a great idea. But if I could just suggest that we plan to have note keepers at each table. So we're actually, capturing the data that I know the parents keep asking for. And that we also ask the parents at the roundtables to attest to the note takers valid taking of notes, if that makes sense. Just so, I know a lot of parents keep saying, show me the data that shows that your transition plan is valid and you know, good from an educational standpoint, from a mental stability standpoint, all of that. I don't know that we'll cover all of that in that roundtable, but at least capture what the parents are saying. So we've got some numbers to throw up in front of everybody when the discussion comes back around. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce. Any other in-person, do you have any online public comment? If you could raise your hand. Don't see any hands raised. And, do we want to take just 5-minute break before we move to go into executive?
That's up to you. I mean, you could move to do it and then take the break.
Okay.
Just to give the people that aren't part of it a chance to exit, but that's up to you how you want to do that.
Well, we're going to take a break and go in. With that, number 13, anticipate executive session. I will take a motion to go into executive session for a discussion of the superintendent's evaluation. Bringing in Dr. Shook. Moved by Jason. Second by Lucy. All those in favor, Maura? Anna?
Sorry,
this is Maura. Aye.
Where I, Jason Stone, I.
Lucy Petrella, aye. Lindsay Dahlheimer, aye.
Jamie, Rebecca.
John Malone, I.
Steve Delvecchio, I.
Motion passes. We'll go to executive session. Amanda and Maura, we will call you if you're available. Thank you all for coming.